What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. The new Taric Rework is out on the PBE and I got a chance to mess around with him and play a couple games. It's a fairly different take on the champion with major changes to pretty much every single ability. And after playing it and breaking it down, I do have to say that the design of this rework is in fact really interesting to me, and the games were a lot of fun too. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you don't, please feel free to hit that dislike. Anyways, let's get started. Now the reason why I say Taric's rework is interesting design is because, well, at least the impression that I get from it, is that they tried to make Taric have about as healthy of a kit as he possibly could actually. His heal relies on this charge system to where it's actually super weak if you don't have all three charges, meaning that the strong heal is on a cooldown of like 30 to 40 seconds actually. His W creates a super interesting dynamic that doesn't actually make any of his abilities stronger or deal more damage, just makes them have larger radiuses and easier to hit. His stun is now a skill shot and it has a delay on it too, and even his ultimate has a significant delay before activating. With the Taric rework, you can really tell that Riot tried to make about as healthy and balanced of a kit as you possibly could in terms of his mechanics, which is pretty cool to see. Previously, Taric before the rework had a lot of problems, in the sense that he was good in solo queue but bad in competitive play, because of the design problems in his kit. He was too one-dimensional to be useful in higher elo unless he was completely broken like he might have been in the past a couple times. But his kit was just too unhealthy to actually be able to buff properly, and the mechanics that he had previously in his kit were not that fair, to the point where if he was viable in competitive play, he would become totally broken in solo queue, and Riot wants champions to be viable in both solo queue and in competitive play and still be relatively balanced. And this Taric rework is likely to accomplish that quite well actually. Regardless of how good or bad this Taric rework is right now in the state that I played it in, it can be balanced with some simple changes to numbers and mana costs, which it looks like was one of the main goals for this rework, and I think that's pretty sweet and was an interesting direction to take him for sure. Now I tried him out in a bunch of different roles, and the most obvious place that he'll find success is going to be on support, because the mechanics with his W create this dynamic that means having an ally nearby give you a lot more options in utility and makes everything easier to land on multiple targets. But I gotta be honest here, when I played Taric top, I was actually quite impressed, in the sense that with Taric top you're playing with such a handicap, since his W becomes almost useless. It gives you a small shield I guess, but doesn't really do much outside of that. But even then, Taric top proved to be pretty good when I played it actually, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, a big part of it is probably because Sunfire Cape and Frozen Fist are just really strong items. But the fact that Taric top had a lot of potential leads me to believe that in the state that I played him in, Taric as a whole is potentially really strong, and he is doing a lot more damage than I expected too. When I first saw his kit, I didn't think he would be that good, but after playing him, the damage that he does is actually quite a lot and is more than I expected. His new passive gives him bonus damage and attack speed on 2 auto attacks after casting a spell, and those 2 empowered auto attacks will lower the cooldown of his heal by 5 seconds each. However, his Q is now a self-target that activates on a radius, and it works on a charge system. When you cast the heal, all available charges are consumed instantly, and the heal's power scales with the charges. And honestly, if you don't have all 3 possible charges, the heal is really weak, and it costs a lot more mana now as well in terms of mana spent versus amount healed, so overall his sustain is going down a bit, with the trade-off that you can now heal more than 2 targets on your team with his heal now, since its area of effect in a radius. His W is definitely the most interesting and probably most exciting part of his new kit, in that when you cast it, it provides your ally with a shield, but it also creates like this Callista-esque kind of link, and when you're in range with your linked ally, all spells that you cast will also cast from that ally as well. So you get to double the radius of every ability. However, his abilities don't stack if they land twice on a target. The shield's actually pretty nice too and gives him even more survivability to his allies to go along with his heal, so it kind of complements the lack of sustain I guess. And as well, in making his stun a skill shot and have a delay, it also now has an area of effect radius. So in combo with an ally, you can actually hit some really crazy stuns, either from just a long range with maybe an ally who has mobility and jumps in, or on a bunch of different targets in a team fight. The stun mechanics comboed with his W are really powerful, and his W cooldown is pretty short, so you can change the target about every 10 or 15 seconds. But it's also quite fair for the opponent too, actually, since the delay is long enough to give them a fair chance to dodge or outplay you. And his ultimate's also a really interesting ability in the sense that it has the potential to be completely disgusting, or completely useless, depending on how it's used. When I first saw the ability preview, I didn't actually realize it at first, but it's like an area of effect Kale ultimate, in the sense that it makes you and your allies invulnerable, but it doesn't restrict you from doing anything. You can still move, attack, and cast abilities. When I first saw it, I thought the stasis was going to be similar to like Bard's ultimate, to where it's kind of like Azonia's in a sense, but nope, it's like Kale's ultimate, and since it has the potential to hit as much as all 5 members of your team, since remember you get that double radius with your W, this is a seriously powerful ability that can shut out all types of different characters. The only saving grace is that it has like a 2.5 second delay on the activation, so a lot of times you might use it and then you just die before it goes off. But when you're using it properly, this ability is insane. Because of the mechanics of his W, Taric has become an incredibly versatile champion now. Although he might have been extremely linear before and one-dimensional, he's now quite versatile, with all of his options revolving around who you place that W on. But since his W has a reasonably short cooldown, you get a lot of options. You can place it on your AD carry to kite and be defensive, or you could place it on an initiator or an assassin to help out your frontline a lot, and dive or initiate with them in a sense. My main balance concern with the Taric rework is definitely going to be his ultimate. I mean, it's essentially an area of effect kill ultimate, with the only factor that makes it okay being that it's on a delay. The delay definitely does make the ability a lot more fair, since you can't use it reactively. You have to use it proactively or predictively, and it's very telegraphed to your opponent, so they do have a chance to outplay you in that sense, but it's still a crazy amount of survivability that also gives you defensive power and offensive power too for like diving in and initiating. One thing I like a lot with the Taric rework is that the only direct offensive power that he has is his stun really, and I guess his passive. There's no more armor shred, there's no damage auras, there's nothing that gives him this additional offensive power that potentially makes him too powerful. All of the rest of his abilities are utility focused, even his stun is too, honestly. It's likely that on the PBE he probably does a bit too much damage, I think, but his kit is really awesome and it's a lot more fun to play and play against than the linear Taric before the rework. He's made a lot of trade-offs in terms of costs and benefits. His Q costs a lot more mana and is only really good when you have 3 charges now, so his sustain is definitely worse than before. It's just better in teamfights. This Taric, at least in the state that I played him in, is pretty strong though, because the utility in his kit now has a lot more stuff than before, and it's incredibly useful stuff. It's not like some situational or maybe only occasionally useful stuff. However, now with Taric, there's so much more room to be outplayed actually. His stun is a skill shot, his ultimate has a massive delay on it, and even his heal pretty much has like a 30 or 40 second cooldown now, since the amount that you heal at 1 or 2 charges is very insignificant compared to the amount at 3 charges. So although I do think he's strong, his gameplay is a lot more healthy, and he's likely to be balanced after some minor tweaks to maybe his damage values, or maybe an increase in mana cost or something. And one thing's for sure, he's definitely a lot more interesting to play. And that just wraps up my thoughts. What do you think about the new Taric rework? Leave a comment, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.